When you think of a tooth, what comes to mind? Probably just a solid, rock-hard piece of enamel, right? But what if I told you that at its very core, it's not just a simple nerve, but a bustling, microscopic world? A world teeming with life, its own defense systems, and some truly incredible potential. Okay, let's dive into this hidden universe.
So, what's actually in there? We've all been told it's just a nerve that hurts when you get a cavity, but honestly, that's a massive oversimplification. We're about to take a journey past the enamel, past the dentin, to see what's truly at the heart of it all.
And this is it. This is the dental pulp. It's not just a single thing, it's this complex, living tissue. As you can see right here in this microscopic view, it's made of very distinct zones. So let's go on a little expedition through its four main layers, starting from the outside and working our way in.
All right, our first stop is the outermost region of the pulp. I like to call this the dentin factory. Why? Because this is the layer that sits right up against the hard part of the tooth, and its whole job is to build and maintain that structure.
Now this factory has an official name, of course. It's called the odontoblastic layer. It's basically the natural barrier between the soft pulp on the inside and the hard dentin on the outside. And it's lined with these highly specialized cells that are the real star players here.
This slide right here explains something that pretty much all of us have felt, that zinging pain of tooth sensitivity. You see, the cells here, these odontoblasts, have these tiny little feelers that stretch out into microscopic tunnels in the dentin. So when you drink something ice cold, that feeling travels right down those tunnels, hits the feelers, and bam, sends a signal to your brain. That jolt you feel, that's this process, right here, in action.
Okay, let's head a little deeper into the pulp now. We're moving into the next two layers, which act as the critical support and reserve zones. You can think of this area as all the infrastructure and the backup crew for our dentin factory.
Now, what's so cool here is the difference between these two zones that are right next to each other. Just under those odontoblasts is the cell-free zone. Now, free is a bit of a misnomer. It's not empty, it just has fewer cells. Instead, it's packed with all the supply lines, the little capillaries and nerve fibers. Then, just below that, you hit the cell-rich zone, which is like a reserve barracks, totally full of repair cells and other undifferentiated cells just waiting to be called into action if there's any damage.
And hey, for any dental students watching, here's a little pro tip for you, straight from the source material. That cell-free zone? It's not always there. When the tooth is really busy building dentin, or when it gets inflamed, the zone just fills up with activity and pretty much disappears. It's a classic exam question, so you might want to remember this one.
All right, we've arrived at our final stop on the structural tour, the fourth and innermost layer. This is the central hub, the command and control center for the entire living system inside your tooth.
Welcome to the pulp core. This is where all the major supply lines enter the tooth. It's got the main blood vessels bringing in nutrition, the lymphatic system that acts like a waste removal service, and the big nerve trunks that branch out into all the upper layers. Basically, this is the tooth's life support system.
So who lives down here in the core? Well, besides those big vessels and nerves, the most common residents by a long shot are the fibroblasts. These are the absolute workhorse cells of the pulp. Their main job is to create and take care of the pulp's internal structure. You know, the collagen fibers and the gel-like stuff that gives it all its shape.
So, we've got the layout down, right? But what happens when this little world gets invaded? Well, it has its own dedicated security team, a whole population of immune cells that are ready to go the second a threat like bacteria from a cavity shows up.
First up on the security detail, you've got the macrophages. Just think of these as the pulp's cleanup crew. They hang out in the central pulp and are one of the first lines of defense, gobbling up dead cells and any bacteria to keep the place tidy and fight off infections.
Now, you might find a few lymphocytes just milling around in a healthy pulp, but these are the special ops forces. When an infection gets really serious, their numbers just skyrocket. They mount a very specific, targeted attack against the invaders. They're absolutely critical when the pulp gets inflamed. Next, we have the mast cells. These are the first responders. When they get triggered, they release chemicals like histamine that kick off the whole inflammatory process. What's interesting, though, is that their presence in a perfectly healthy pulp is actually still debated among scientists, but they for sure show up when things start to go wrong.
And this just brilliantly shows how sophisticated the pulp surveillance system is. These are the dendritic cells. They're the sentinels, the lookouts. They hang out near that outer odontoblast layer.
And the second they detect a foreign invader, say bacteria from a cavity, they grab a piece of it, run over to the T lymphocytes, and basically say, "Hey, look what I found. We need to launch an attack on this thing, now."
Okay, so we've explored the structure, we've met the defense system, but our journey is not over. Believe it or not, the most exciting part of this whole story is a recent discovery about what else is hiding inside the dental pulp, a secret that could literally change the future of medicine.
It turns out, researchers have discovered that the pulp is an amazing source of what are called mesenchymal stem cells. These things are incredible. They're undifferentiated cells that haven't decided what they want to be when they grow up yet. They have this amazing ability to multiply and, if you give them the right signals, transform into all sorts of different specialized cells.
So how powerful are they? Well, get this. A single stem cell from your tooth could become a new odontoblast to help repair the tooth itself. But it doesn't stop there. Scientists have been able to guide them to become cartilage cells, bone-building cells, even new nerve cells. I mean, the potential here is just astounding.
So the next time you think about your teeth, just remember they are not just tools for chewing. They are living, dynamic, incredible ecosystems. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought. Could the key to regenerating bone, cartilage, and maybe even nerve tissue be quietly waiting inside a part of our body we so often take for granted?